King Charles has been pictured for the first time since his cancer diagnosis was announced at 6 p.m. yesterday evening. Both he and Queen Camilla left Clarence House by car and are believed to have travelled to Sandringham by helicopter. Earlier, Prince Harry arrived in London to visit his father. It's not known whether he is still with him. But joining me in the studio to discuss all the developments, talkTV's royal editor Sarah Hewson, good to see you again, Sarah, and royal commentator Emily Andrews. Thanks for coming, Emily. And down the line is Beverly Sayers, a family therapist. So let's focus first of all, Emily, on the arrival of Prince Harry. We believe he spent about 45 minutes with his father. And as far as we know, at any rate, he doesn't seem to be going to Sandringham with the King and Queen.
No, I mean, we don't know. All we've seen is Charles, for the first time since we learned about his treatment for cancer yesterday, and we understood that he had his first lot of treatment. We don't know what that is yesterday. And he's now taken a car to Buckingham Palace, and he has been flown by helicopter to Sandringham with Camilla. I mean, it doesn't seem as if Harry has gone with them in the helicopter, and one would assume that that means that Harry is not going either, because obviously if he's in the helicopter, he'd still be in that kind of protective police cordon. I thought it was interesting that at Heathrow he was picked up by Metropolitan Police protection officers. He had two, PPOs with him. He had police cars with him as well. And the fact that he flew by the commercial airline that's favoured by the royal family suggests to me that Buckingham Palace had organised this trip coming over, which is interesting because, of course, in the past, if you remember the last time Harry came to the UK for Invictus Games in the Netherlands, he stayed in London for a night. He was doing a charity appearance here, and he asked if he could stay in either Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, Windsor Castle, and the answer came back, no, but you can come to Burke Hall and see your father. So it does show that, you know, when his father wants to make things happen, it can happen quite quickly. But I think, I mean, for me, 45 minutes is not very long. If we do, later on this evening, see Harry perhaps go back to Heathrow to get the 8 p.m. flight back to Los Angeles, I mean, they are not normal people, obviously, but for most normal families, if there's been some rift and your dad's, you know, quite ill, you would expect the son and father to spend slightly longer together than 45 minutes.
I mean, I did try to draw Sarah Hewson out on this earlier. That's pretty much what I tried to say. I was trying to say, especially when, you know, they have such exceptional circumstances. For example, the sheer size of Sandringham. It's not like they live in a 2 up, 2 down, and Harry would have to bunk up on the sofa in the living room and there wouldn't be anywhere to put him. Plus, you know,
much more private, much more
very
private
in Sandringham. And so you might have thought that he's flown the whole way here. It's been since the coronation that he last saw his father, and they didn't even, people think, have time to speak at all at the coronation. If they did, it was a passing word, nothing. So you'd think that they would want to kind of linger a little bit and spend a bit of time together, not just 45 minutes and off the King and Queen go to Sandringham.
I guess I'm trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt in what is a very difficult situation that they're all learning in recent days. And we don't know what is happening privately behind the scenes. We don't know whether there are plans for a further meeting. We don't know whether Harry has commitments that he needs to be back for, or whether the King has been advised, you know, you just need to take some time out and recover. I do agree with you, 45 minutes. When we talked about this potentially being a catalyst for a healing of that royal rift, well, that doesn't seem like that's really going to be enough to sort of break the stalemate that they've been in. And we've been told there are no plans for Prince William to see his brother. So I think this is small steps in the right direction, but it's certainly not the end of that transatlantic spat.
Absolutely. Emily, are you at all surprised that Meghan didn't accompany Harry? Would anyone have thought that rather a nice thing to have done, particularly in view of the fact that, you know, there are nannies available and people to help with little children on flights, long-haul flights? Would anyone have said it would be a nice thing to do to bring Archie and Lilibet with them so they could see their grandfather, that might have been, when somebody is ill, the kind of thing they might like to do?
Well, I know that some people are saying that, but from my personal point of view, I think it's entirely right that she didn't come. I think it's entirely right that Lilibet and Archie didn't come. They're still very little. If we don't know what treatment Charles had yesterday, but any of the options available to oncologists are quite invasive, whether it's radiotherapy or chemotherapy or immunotherapy. And so to sort of, for the children to see their grandfather coming straight off a transatlantic flight will be a lot for them, it'd be a lot for Charles. And I mean, I did wonder whether one of the reasons why Harry came was because, you know, we know that Charles doesn't have a mobile phone, so it's very difficult for Harry to actually speak to his father. He has to go through the Buckingham Palace switchboard like Sarah and I sometimes have to, although obviously we do not get put through to the king. We do not get put through to the king, we just get spoken to.
Emily and Sarah here.
Sarah does. So when you sort of think about that, and Harry's having to go through a switchboard, and then maybe the switchboard might put him through to an equerry, or if he's really unlucky, you know, Charles's private secretary, or Clive Alderton, or, you know, who, with all joking aside, or whomever, and then the king's not available, you can perhaps maybe see why Harry, having spoken to his father, he's been told that his father's got cancer, quite sadly, it's like, I want to see my father face to face. I don't want to have to kind of try and sort of keep speaking to him over the phone. But no, I think it's entirely right that Meghan and the children didn't come. And actually, it really kind of focuses the mind that this was a very personal visit by Harry, a son to his father. We don't know whether Camilla was there. I'm assuming not. I'm assuming it was just, we will see whether anything is briefed out. I suspect not from Charles's side. We will see if anything is briefed out from Harry's side. But no, entirely right that Meghan didn't come, I don't think. But maybe Vanessa might pave the way. Maybe she can come and bring the children in the summer to Balmoral, Burke Hall, very private. None of us will know. Maybe.
Sarah?
I'd 100% agree it wasn't the right time for Meghan to come. I think if it was my father-in-law with that kind of diagnosis, I would think, OK, it's up to my husband, his son, to see him first and foremost. It's not my place right now when the family's kind of reeling with this news, but at a later point. But obviously, you know, this family have got pretty strained relations, and Meghan, although having once had a close relationship with the king, he gave her away, of course, at her wedding. And we know that her and Harry called the king on his 75th birthday in November. But things are strained, and she's made it pretty clear how difficult she found it to be part of the royal family, and I think now wouldn't have been the right time.
All right, let's bring into the conversation Beverly Sayers, who's a family therapist. Hello, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. I mean, it felt very promising indeed in terms of a rapprochement that Prince Harry got on a plane so speedily to see his father after this cancer diagnosis. But now we find out that we think very probably their meeting lasted about 45 minutes maximum, and then the King and Queen have gone off to Sandringham. Do you think this, though, does show the beginning of maybe a thaw in the icy relationship?
I think it may well do. The very fact that he's come over here is really important. This is his father, and I agree with the previous speakers that it's not the sort of thing initially for the grandchildren. This is very much about the immediate family. And what this is an opening up of communications. And one of the reasons I'm here is as a family mediator. And I think you've invited me in as a family mediator. I am also a family therapist, that's true. And family mediation is very much about opening up communications. And within family mediation sessions, you may only have an hour and a half to talk out some of the issues in a session. And so 45 minutes doesn't seem an unreasonable time for something that is probably going to be very tense. And certainly for Charles is going to be quite wearing because he's also had this news and begun the treatment. So I think all of those issues mean that perhaps 45 minutes is not a problem. Is something that is opening up communication. And that is the key bit when anything breaks down, when any relationship breaks down. How do you open up the communication?
Well,
and maybe having a long...
How do you open up the communication?
Well, I think for it to be facilitated, so that's one of the reasons why I think you've invited me in as a family mediator, that a family mediator can be there to open up a discussion in an impartial way to help both sides to be heard and to say what they need to say and to hear the other side. So I think those are the skills that a family mediator would have, quite separate to a family therapist as it happens. But it's about how can I say what I need to say, how can I be heard, and how can I feel that I've been heard? And it's really important that that is focused on what are the important issues at the moment. And it does seem like this cancer diagnosis is maybe the things that has left people perhaps thinking, I need to not just focus on myself and how I'm feeling about the situation, but I need to think about another person. And it's that sort of development of the conversation that can be really helped with mediation or with somebody facilitating that sort of conversation.
All right, well, there's no suggestion that there was a mediator anywhere near the place, but if you had been officiating in your role that you've described to me quite vividly as a family mediator a couple of times now, what would you have done to, to ease the path towards maybe a second meeting or towards maybe regular phone calls, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and I think that is about opening up the dialogue, starting that communication, maybe having something which is about what do we both want for the future? What do we both want something that is going to look like a communication of within this relationship in the future, and how can we set that up? So certainly taking into account the here and now of the cancer diagnosis and the very fact that Harry's come over here. But also actually maybe addressing some of the worries and the issues that have gone before as a means to saying how can we move forward. So mediation is very much about moving forward. It's very much about the future. It's about future focus. It's not about trying to sort out what the past has been, because we can't sort out the past. The past is the past. It's happened, but we can learn from it. And this is the sort of moment where people may feel, okay, this is where we've got to a situation where bad things have happened, in this case, cancer diagnosis, and maybe we can find a different way to have a future together where we are not separated and we're not finding that we can't talk to each other, but we can actually find a way to talk, which takes account of where we both are.
Thank you very much indeed.